LNTH40. That's on LNTH. On GDC, and that's in closing of 2.8 million private placement. GDC. QNRX announced recruitment of 3 additional patients in investigative pediatric Netherton syndrome. QNRX. On CDZI, Cadiz executes definitive agreement with Litan Renteria for 51 million investment in Mojave Groundwater Bank. On ZOOZ, expands its Bitcoin treasury. SILC awarded a 3 million design win from SAAC leader. INDI enters into definitive agreement to sell its
SHLS, let me take a peek. Good morning, guys. It doesn't look too bad. I think there are better solars out there for the time being. Plus, this one's just still a touch extended from the 50 simple moving on. Yeah, it's about 5.5 times its ATR from the 50. A little extended, but it looks fine. But a little extended. Am I a buyer of AppLovin or wait for clearing up that big distribution bar on 611? If we can consolidate far enough away from it, it might not be too bad. It looks like this thing was buyable on, what was that, Friday? Or Thursday? As it bounced off the 50. It depends where you bought it. If I were better prepared for this and buying it as a bounce off of on Thursday off the 50 simple moving average over Wednesday's high, that could have been done. I like TSM as a business. Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, maybe not my favorite setup, but it's in an uptrend. Semiconductors are acting well. That's the important part. INTR to e-liquid. Happy to help, Mando. Happy to help. I already own Rocket Lab, and I keep my eyes on this one every single day. It is potentially setting up for some ads, and it could be viewed as a higher low setup. I don't hate it. I just know that we've got big earnings coming into this week, and we've got big earnings coming, and then FOMC. So I think it's just, don't be packing on too much new exposure before these events. But ultimately, I think Rocket Lab does look pretty good. Maybe we'll see how this thing looks over 66.5. MRV is a laggard, but looks like a good setup. I wouldn't be a buyer of this thing on the 4th green day in a row. Thoughts on Best Buy? No, it's going to be too slow. InnoData. And also, it's not in the right group right now. Best Buy they're just not in the right group. InnoData, maybe when it clears the 20 simple moving average. Thoughts on PayPal since it just got to deal with OpenAI? $82 where it went. 79. I don't know. I would just let this thing trade today and then see if it has a high volume close setup. What's your best setup / sectors in the market right now with both long and short? Oh, geez. Oh, how'd I do that? Oh, there we go. I think earnings gap ups and high volume closes might be the best on the long side, and rejections against declining moving averages might be the best shorts, or a break back through on the short side of key moving averages. Like you re-lose the 20 simple. And the hottest, I mean, just focus on the hottest sectors. Right now, mega caps seem to be leading the way, and anything AI related, um, robotics related, aerospace and defense names. Yeah, AI related theme, nuclear related theme after that news for CCJ. Did I trim anything yesterday? Yes. I got rid of a half of my Oracle because this price action by day's end was completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable for how strong the market was yesterday. So I got rid of half of it, and the other half, my stop is at flat for now. So, and then I added a small position in iron, and we are gapping down overnight. I do anything else? No, I didn't do anything else. So I still have my ARC. I still have BABA. I still have Dell. I still have this iron short. I've got my mags long. I trimmed half Oracle. I still have a short in Rigetti from about 42 and a half ish. I have Rocket Lab from down in the low 50. I just got TEM on Friday and Tesla, and I added a piece yesterday as it took out prior day high. That's it. That is it. TBPH. It's just too thin. 2 months of consolidation, it only trades $4 million a day. I mean, it looks all right, but nobody's really trading it. STX after earnings, maybe. I actually almost shorted. Maybe after earnings, I almost shorted SNDK yesterday. Oh, I should have. Shame. Thoughts on metals and miners? I don't like gold right now. I've been talking about that quite a bit. Now, I should have held on to some of my nuggets short because it just gapped down even more, another 6 points. I don't like gold at the moment. It was such a crowded long. I talked about this, quite a bit in the room and on social media. And, gold is now sub 4,000, which is very expected for how crowded of a long it was. If those are the metals and miners you're talking about, but there are other metals that are looking pretty great. STLD, and that's steel. This one looks pretty good. NUE had a gap up on earnings, gave some of it back, but still looking pretty good, establishing itself above the 200. Copper still looks pretty good. So I mean, there are others. There are other places to look. Yeah, there are definitely other places to look. Copper definitely looks like one of them. Thoughts on AMPX? I think I remember I looked at this one yesterday and I said, if you just remove this ugly distribution bar, it looks pretty good. If you just were to take these two candles out of the equation, it looked pretty good. Maybe over 1340, I don't know. Why did I sell PDD? Because it broke the 20 simple moving average, and that was the plan with it. Right? When I bought this thing here, when I bought this thing down here, I told myself that as long as it held the 20, I would just stay in it. Well, right here, it was losing the 20, and I got out of it. That was the plan. I had a 122 average, and the last thing I wanted to do was watch it go down to the 50 and then only have a $2 gain, right? When I was up like 15 bucks a share. And then, what did it do? Well, it technically closed below the 50. I mean, this candle would have likely shaken me out, but I didn't have to sit through this. And then obviously it did build some higher lows off the 50 and then turn right back up. So unfortunately, I'm not in it, and it, has come right back to life. It was probably buyable on the 23rd. I just didn't do anything with it. But I do own BABA. So I'm in one that's working. Chasing MOD gap up today. No, this is just gapping up on earnings. I don't chase anything. There has to be a reason for me to buy it. And Modine's earnings are today and after hours. So Ivan, if you're not aware of that, I don't know why you would ever buy a stock on the day that it has earnings. Could it gap up? Maybe. Could it also gap down? Yeah, it can. Worst trading advice I was ever given? I don't know, man. I'll have to think about that because there's honestly just so much bad advice. I typically don't take too many people's advice. I mean, I do, obviously. I've been influenced by a lot, but I've been influenced by great traders, not by bad ones. So like all the bad advice, I kind of just in one ear, out the other. Iron on short side volume is not aligning with thesis. Why do you think it's a good setup? Because I think, and I've said this before, I think an Iron, I think IONQ, I think Rigetti, I think Oklo, I think Hut. I want to say, and I guess I've said it already, is that I think these names have seen their yearly highs. Right? Like I look at an Oklo, I believe that this has seen its highs for 2025. I believe 193.84 on Oklo will have been its highs. When I look at an IONQ, I think 84.5 will have been its yearly highs. When I look at Iron, and these all kind of ran together. There's just a lot of liquidity in the market. The market was just taking up these new themes, the data centers, the quantums, the nuclears, etc. And we have seen this kind of a setup before. And the way it is, you'll notice like a TSSI, right? Where like you kind of crack, you go to reclaim after a few days, and then eventually it just ends up breaking down. And you've also seen it on like an AEVA, right? Where it's very similar to Iron as well, in a way where it breaks down, not a ton, right? It breaks down about 30%. Then you get a little bit of a multi-day rally, and then all of a sudden it just breaks, right? I don't know that Iron's going to play out identical, but I did think that, we would probably go back and revisit the 50 simple moving average, and you get a bit of a drawdown, about 33%-ish, similar to AEVA, and then you get a little bit of a multi-day rally, and then, you kind of crack. Could it just be that we bounce one more time and then crack? Probably. Who knows? But yeah, that's my thesis. And so I'm getting positioned to play that thesis out. So, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I shorted it yesterday and we're fine. I'm not worried about it. So and here's the thing, I'm wrong 60% of the time. So I'm used to being wrong. I just take my small losses, and then when I'm in something that's right, I just let it work. When do we start buying gap ups like WGS? I'm not going to be buying them right now. Sometimes you'll get these gap ups and then they're just selling off. I would prefer to see a gap up and then have some high volume close and then a setup from there. So I would like to buy gap ups on earnings after the market's had a correction, not after the market's gone up this much. I think that'll make for much better gap ups. Yeah, SoFi looks good. SoFi looks good. I did, yeah. I added Tesla yesterday over prior day high. Yeah, WGS looks good. SoFi looks good. Two nice flat bases, basically. Not really quite flat base for WGS, but copper. Yeah, copper names look good. SCCO looks awesome. It's just a gorgeous high tie flag. Thoughts on Wolf? Yeah, Wolf like the others. Wolf like Iron, like Bit Farms, like Hut. I think that these have seen their yearly highs. I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot, but I look at a Bit Farms, for instance. I don't see this thing getting back up to 660 in the next 8 weeks. I could be wrong, but am I looking at ETH for a long? Yeah, just not right at the moment. I will probably in a few more days. SMCI short setup, I don't see it here. It's well above its 50-day, and it looks like it bounced from there. I don't really see the short setup. But now there's news of a shelf registration on WGS. Yeah, if you think you're going to get hit in an offering, don't buy it, or make sure you size way down. Yeah, I like AVGO. I've been paper cut out in a couple times, but I do like the name. I think AVGO looks pretty dang good. U's not quite reclaiming the 50 simple moving average just yet. It's got to get over $40. Yeah, I would trade SCCO even though it has a lower ADR, but that's just me. Right? And that's because I've got cash on the sidelines. I'd rather have it in SCCO than sitting in cash. Too slow. ACM too slow. Not one I would trade personally. Yep, Rambus, a good reminder to not hold into earnings. You can hold into earnings, but you got to make sure you're trimmed into earnings. I mean, this isn't all that bad, right? Back at $97. Depends where you own it from. Like if you own Rambus from like 80, then you should have trimmed some into this on earnings. Yeah, I think SoFi looks pretty good after earnings. Do I think Cypher, Hut, and Iron all move to data center services will be moved to other group? Yeah, they're data center plays because they've got access to tons of power. They didn't move because they're financial services stocks. They moved because they've got access to tons of power. Does Team interest me here? I already own Team. So yes. Yeah, Team interests me quite a bit. And even similar to Iron, I do think Wolf, although maybe looking a little bit better, or even Riot, which did have a new closing high. I do think a few of these have hit their yearly high. Again, I'm not going to probably be right on all of them, but thoughts on CLF, another steel name. I mean, I don't know that I love this action. I prefer like NUE or STLD, but Galaxy setting up. The problem with Galaxy is we don't know what's going to happen to it after yesterday. Although I think it was like a private placement, but gapping down a little bit. We'll see what happens if it can hold on to that $36 level. Open at trend line break. Yeah, I don't really do trend line breaks, too often. We'll set an alert before this thing takes out the high and see what happens. It depends. It depends. Sometimes I set a limit order, like 10, 20, 30 cents above where I want it. And then I just get the buy button and I make sure I get my fill, right? So I'll set my limit above, um, just so I can get my immediate fill. Market fills are fine too. It almost ends up trading out like a market fill because I'm kind of sweeping the book, but it's not like I trade that massive size. And, I'll trade super liquid names. So it's not really an issue. Market orders are fine. Yeah, JP Morgan is acting well, and the other banking stocks are acting pretty well too. JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. I mean, this is a new closing high. Wells Fargo. They didn't really get affected by the KRE ass kicking. The ass kicking the KRE took the other day. Right, wasn't that big a deal. NRG looks fine, and they're probably going to be even better now that CCJ got that deal. Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah, if the market begins to weaken up, yeah, this looks like a short. Guys, I said this on this gap down. I said this one reminded me a lot of Shake Shack. I don't know that it plays out the same, but it reminded me a lot of it, where it's like you're on highs basically. You break down for earnings, you're hanging out right near the 200, and then all of a sudden, right? You don't really want to look for bottom on Netflix until Netflix gives you something a whole lot better looking than this. So, food for thought. IBKR could be setting up, yeah, in the right group. It's in those financial names. Yeah, this one, I mean, a little bit more sideways. These bounces off the 50-day have panned out pretty well since last Wednesday. Rhythm Pharmaceutical, I saw this as a flat base breakout a few weeks ago. I thought this looked really good right through here. So 102, 103. Now we're 111. A little slow, but there we go. Thoughts on Baidu? It's acting well. Thoughts on IE? Yeah, not bad. Looks a little like SCCO, doesn't it? Looks a little like SCCO. Just this little bit of a bull flag into the 20-day. Look at that. Yeah, not bad. Obviously, it's moving with SCCO, so just keep your eyes on the leader. Can I please talk about the size you keep for your final trim position? Is it based on percent of your account or some kind of key metric? Do you have enough size to still make a difference? Yeah, so like typically, let's just say I get myself into a 10% position. Usually within that first 3 to 5 day move, I like to trim at least a third. Like that's like would be like the low end. So I'm trimming a third to a half. And then obviously, this stock has appreciated and is now actually a bigger part of my portfolio. So at this point, it might be like 6-7% of my portfolio, maybe. And I continue to just let it work until we get an extension from the 50 simple moving average or until we break back below the 20-day. Sometimes it's the 10-day, depending on how quickly it's actually moving. And that's it. And yes, it can be enough size that it still makes a difference, right? Because if the stock over, I don't know, what it could be 1 month or 4 month still moves 100% and you have 6% size, you still have moved your portfolio in a meaningful way. Yeah, Datadog, not bad. You get these pushes higher sometimes that come right back in and revisit the 20 simple moving average and just build higher lows against the 20. You've seen this in something like LEU a whole lot lower, right? Where it makes a nice move and then just builds higher lows against the 20. And then it just eventually, pushes off from that level. You see this, in a bunch of charts. This exact same kind of thing. Looks fine. Yeah, I'm a little bit more on the cautious side with adding too much exposure. The job should have been done already, right? Like you should have some longs on already. GCT too thin. I mean, it's fine, but just trade 17 million bucks a day. There's nothing I can do with it here. Do I see Joby? Man, I don't really love these names either. I think these things will be good for military application. That's about it. I don't know. I don't really see a setup here. A little sloppy. InnoData and TEM look similar to me. No. No, they don't. ASTS still isn't ready either. I mean, it's fine. It made such a big move up that it's fine. Nice job reclaiming the 20, but no, I'm good. I'm good on this one still. Nothing really going on. CALX after earnings? I don't know. You're asking me to predict the future, and I don't know what the future holds. If it gaps down, then definitely not. If it gaps up, then maybe. And still no for me because it's too thin. Maybe for you. Maybe it's good for you. This Etsy's kind of interesting. It's just a hair extended, but not really. It's fine. Looks good. Yeah, I think as long as the market's still marching higher, you can continue to use progressive exposure on the long side. Between Thursday and Friday, I've put on quite a bit of long exposure. So a battery theme's still a watch. Although there's a lot of the names that I know for sure have hit their yearly high. Like a name like ABAT, I mean, it's over with. Right? ABAT's not going back to 11. So, just get it off your radar. Yeah, I just mentioned it. When I trim, it's normally about a third of my position, a third to a half. VKTX, not ready just yet. I was just looking at this one. Viking. You don't really want to trade UPS. Far too slow. And for the record, gap up on earnings, is not considered an EP. Not all gap up on earnings are EP setups. So, and this is just bumping into the 200. There's just nothing to do there. Yeah, kinda. I mean, it looks fine. It's not extended. It looks fine. FSLR is my favorite. Do you only know undercut and rally after the fact? I know when it will continue to decline or just sweeping stops. Well, I look at a smaller time frame. So like I've got a bigger picture in mind, and then I take it down to a smaller time frame for my entries. No, I didn't scalp a BYND. PayPal needs time. C3 AI is garbage. Futu's just fine. Needs a little bit of time. Yeah, Futu's fine. PayPal, give it a moment to digest this news. C3 AI is hot trash. It's a shame that this company ticker symbol is AI and has been the worst acting AI stock of the entire 2 years. Pony, no setup just yet, but it is on my radar. It's made a nice move. Serve Robotics, I prefer SYM. After my trim, the first 3 to 5 days of buying, do I keep my stop loss the same? or do I move it to break even? How do you decide when to move your stop? Well, when you're buying something nice and tight after a 3 to 5 day push, that moving average already starts following price. So that's when I know to just trail. Is there news on Microsoft there? I don't see news. Anybody see some Microsoft news? Microsoft stock in need of a jolt. I mean, yeah, literally nothing. The hell was that? Microsoft signed new pact with OpenAI. God, I need that news so much faster, man. They signed a fucking pact. Not some letter of intent, not some signed contract or deal. They signed a fucking pact. Oh my god. Oh, that news is totally awesome. Oh man, yeah. I talked about SoFi. I think SoFi is interesting on earnings. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens today on that earnings gap up. Jesus, on a fucking pact. What are we doing here? That's just too hilarious. No letter of intent, no contract. What are these, what are these 8-year-olds? Hey man, I got a pact with you, all right? Rocket Lab I own. It could be interesting over yesterday's highs. But we've got a bunch of earnings coming up. So, yeah, GLW is interesting. And we'll see how this thing builds out. But again, this is why you got to not buy stocks on breakouts. Like, talking about Modine today, you don't really want to buy stocks on breakouts yesterday going into earnings. You won't have enough cushion. And then this is what happens. So, but I still think GLW looks interesting. You're at $84, which is, right at the 20-day. APLD, I don't know about this one. I think, APLD, like Iron and some of the others, I might be wrong, but I think that they've hit their yearly high. ASTS doesn't seem ready just yet. Is NVIDIA really up this morning because there was news that Jensen was going to the White House to be congratulated? QS. I don't know. I'd let this thing tighten up. I don't really see a clean setup here. Yeah, Qualcomm, that news was a bit ridiculous. So that pact was good for my Oracle. It was also good for NBIS and CoreWeave. I know it's a pact, dude. It's honestly, it's you know, a little ridiculous if you ask me. Thoughts on ABCL? What is that? Abcel? Excuse the dogs, guys. They like to bark at people walking their dogs in the neighborhood. Yeah, this is a nice looking chart. Yeah, probably a blood pact. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Penny. How did I see the Microsoft move so quickly? That's my job, brother. My job is to see things. That's literally the entire job. Yeah, I don't know that it needs one more shakeout, but I think it looks pretty good. I mean, it needs it's fine. It's just got to push a little bit more and then tighten up on the right hand side. I don't think it needs one more shakeout. We'll see. Good morning, guys. For those of you just hopping in now. Yeah, AOI. I mean, I like this thing in the low 20s. I just got shaken out a handful of times. Super, super frustrating. I want to say I own this thing like here and I got stopped out. And then I want to say I own this thing somewhere else and I got stopped out. But I've been watching this thing ever since this move and then this pullback and underneath the 200 simple moving average. I talked about owning it when it reclaimed the 200 so many times, like $24. And, here we are. A little bit frustrating, but PayPal, I'll just let it trade all day and then see if, this news gets supported because OpenAI is had some kind of a deal with about everybody. So CoreWeave, there's no setup there. I thought CoreWeave, the setup was last Wednesday as a bounce off the 50 simple moving average. And same with NBIS. I'm not going to come in and buy something after it's made a 20% move, right? It needs to tighten up for me. I want to catch 20% moves. I don't want to be the one that buys them, right? Besides, if I'm buying this here, I'm buying something within a range. You're going to buy something that's still kind of within a range, buy it off of a key moving average. Don't buy something on the fourth green day, potentially in a row. That's a sign that you don't love your money so much. You got to love your money, big money. Otherwise, you're going to have little money. You got to respect your money. Don't be chasing stocks up on the fourth day in a row. Wait for a clean technical setup, and there definitely isn't one. If you're going to buy a biotech and you don't want to own the individual biotechs, you could own XBI or LabU. That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna do a pact with OpenAI of some sort, boost my stock a little. I mean, it's totally laughable news. Totally laughable. My thoughts on SYM. This one kind of hurts, man. I owned SYM at $50. I owned it picture perfect right as it was coming back through the 50-day on 918. And then I get stopped out on 925 as this thing round trips on me. So frustrating. Should have rebought it on 10-1. But, it is what it is. I think SYM looks good. It's probably one of my favorite robotic names. It depends how liquid a stock is. Really not how liquid, how fast it moves as well. So like if a stock moves very, very fast, then, a 8% position might be all I need. If a stock moves a little bit slower, then, up to 20. Really depends. But yeah, let's just say on average, 10% of my portfolio in a stock is about all I really put in. No filters like that, Ivan. Do I use any filters that are with certain SMA slope and percent away from current price action? No. What made me not get into SYM on 10-1? I've got no excuses. I should have rebought it. Almost as this was building a very subtle higher low setup. No excuses for not rebuying it. So sucks to suck. What do you think? What do you make of the big drop on LAC after the big move? Well, LAC was garbage to begin with. So, I'm not totally surprised about this one. And if you want to focus on lithium stocks, you would focus on ALB and ALB only. But even this one, this is shit action. I like the lithium group. I think it's interesting. But I wouldn't be focusing on LAC. What percentage of my account is invested? I could give you a pretty decent idea here. 60. I'm 40% cash. What entry point do you use for undercut and rally targets? I'm confused what you mean by that. I feel like you're asking me two different things here. My entry points, I try to align my entries to a key area on the daily chart. And then I try to make sure that I'm buying when the market on a smaller time frame starts to turn back up. In other words, I want my individual stocks turning back up off of a daily key level. Yeah, this is just ridiculous, right? We're going to get another gap up in the NQ, and it's going to lead to another gap up in the QQQ. I mean, I don't want to say that it's getting absurd, but it's getting a little bit absurd. I don't know. I'm not really going to try and short the SQQQ. I'm going to just focus on the individual stocks that are acting well. I mean, it's a definite bull market, so I'm not going to argue with it too much. I'm just being more and more cautious as we go into these earnings in FOMC. Yeah, CCJ soaring in pre-market. Yeah, on the $80 billion deal with the government. Yeah, I prefer a gap down, and the market's not giving them. They're just gapping up. It's like full-on FOMO right now. It's kind of insane. You are filtering on average 20-day dollar volume, and I want to see stocks up on the week, or at least is that a good? I don't have that filter on my scans. I want to know 20-day dollar volume, but I don't. I mean, I filter for it because I can't trade e-liquid stocks. So, right, I don't really want to look at stocks trading under $60 million. So, Yeah, I don't mind because I own mags, right? Like this isn't bothering me at all, right? This is so far a pretty nice move, but it's likely that today, maybe I take a little bit of a piece off. Why do I care about FOMC? Rate cut is priced in. Well, that's the thing. You might say the rate cut is priced in, but then, I don't know. I do care about FOMC because that event could move the market. So I don't want to get too aggressive on, for instance, Thursday when that will be on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. No, I didn't shave any Dell yesterday. I shaved Oracle because it wasn't acting all that great. But no, I thought that Dell was acting awesome. When do you decide that a stock needs to base into a VCP versus a buyable spot into the 20? Depending on how extended we have gotten, right? If the move just started, then a pullback into the ascending moving average is fine. If the move has been prolonged, then a longer base is needed. ACDC. Let me look. No, Jesus Christ, Manny. Do you hate your money, brother? Why are you looking at stocks below the 200 simple moving average that just got crushed like this? Have you noticed any stocks at all that I pull up that look anything like this? If you're talking about a stock that's below the 200 and trades $5 million a day. No disrespect, but you have to hate your money to be looking at stuff like this, dude. And I can't go light on you. Otherwise, you'll never learn. Get this shit off your radar, dude. And do it like yesterday. I mean, I can't, again, don't have me pull that stuff up. Stick a 200 simple moving average on your chart, guys. If it's below the 200 simple moving average, it's not for swing trading. It's like there's a very simple basic rule. It's the 200 simple moving average. If it's below, that means that over the last 200 days, it's in a downtrend. If it's above, that means that over the last 200 days, it's in an uptrend. I'm assuming we want to be in stocks that are in uptrends. Let alone trading $5 million. I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? There's nobody there. Not only is there nobody there, it's below the 200. No institution can buy that trash. Another reason it's $4. Manny, I got to go hard on you, brother. Otherwise, the concept might never sink in. Don't waste your time with it. XOM is, I like it, but damn, this is choppy, dude. It's just so choppy. Seems like you only use moving averages, volumes. Yep, ATR and your indicators. Nope, there's nothing else. The only thing that you're not seeing is the work that I do when the market's closed, which is I'm doing my best to figure out where money's going, what groups are getting the most amount of love. And then maybe what separates me from somebody else is my timing, right? So I'm making sure that when I'm buying something, I'm doing it when the market is acting well, right? And then I'm doing something with proper position size. And then unlike most people who tend to oversize positions, once I'm in a winner, I sit with my winner for as long as it's working, right? And that's how you end up sitting in a name like ARK for, 5 months now, basically, right? I'm still sitting in ARK from 6.6. That's the problem that most people have is they'll have sold their ARK long ago. 200, I use SMA, but EMA, SMA, no problem. It's a 200-day trend filter. Digital Realty Trust. Yeah, liquid, big base. Yeah, I mean, it didn't die for earnings. On YouTube, you'll have to go to like some of my scanning videos, but I did talk about scanning, and I've made a video about it before. Let me know if that one helps. CENX, is this Century Aluminum? A little sloppy. Let it tighten up. right? Big volatility. Let it tighten up. The hardest part is sitting in winners for sure. What you need to do is you just need to remove some of the thinking and just use the moving averages. If it's above the moving average that you're trailing on, let it work. And then what helps you sit in something is proper position size. If you're oversized in something, then it's hard to sit through that volatility. If you've got, only 10% position of your portfolio on there and you've got 8, 9, 10 other stocks, right? Some are up, some are down, some are flat on the day. And ultimately, if you're focused on stocks in an uptrend, that tends to, put the odds in your favor that you're going to do well. When do you look for group rotation? I'm constantly looking for group rotation. I do it every single day. I ask myself every single day, where's money going? Where's money leaving? I do it every single day. That's, and I'm scanning stocks on a 3-month relative strength scan. That's like probably my primary way over 3 months. I like 30-day relative strength scans. And then I like stocks that are up on volume. And then sometimes there's a day when there's a group that's up on volume and it's multiple stocks within the same group. And then, I'll then start to track that group, whatever that group might be, solars, biotechs, home builders, et cetera. And then if, the market's coming down and this group is flat, that's relative strength. If the market's going up, but this group's more green, that's relative strength. If the market's down and this group is green, that's relative strength. That happens for enough times, or long enough time. That happens because institutions are accumulating. So, or at the very least, they're not selling. So something to pay attention to. Coles, yeah, I don't hate it, but the problem is this group's not that awesome. CLS, there's no setup here. I was watching this one last night for an earnings gap up, and this is just too far gone. I mean, we're talking about $350 now. Just nuts. We're like 110 points away from the 50 simple moving average. Like way too gone. This one kind of hurts because I owned it at 100. Yeah, it's up. It's way too far gone. It's like 8 times its ATR from the 50. TSM a little slow. My risk is never really so huge, right? Progressive exposure keeps you out of having huge risk. So I open one position at a time. If it goes on to work and then I trim some into strength, the risk is basically gone, right? The worst position I'm typically in is that I take a small loss or that I give back unrealized gains, both of which I'm perfectly comfortable with. CLF, nothing to do with Jumia, too thin, but I do like the comeback that it's made. Nothing really to do. SATS, I still thought was a little extended. Yeah, it's getting better, but nothing really here yet. Yeah, Intel holding above the pivot. Nice to see. Do I socialize with other traders? Yeah, tons of them. So I socialize with a bunch of them within the Discord, and I socialize with multiple of them in real life. So those are about some of my only friends, honestly. Yeah, Uber's interesting. Palantir's interesting. Guys, I got to get my butt rolling. For some of you, I will see you guys in 5 minutes. And for the other of you guys, I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Please trade them well today. Have a safe trading day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Yep. Have a good one, guys.